In this episode, we'll be talking about 3 simple teaching tips for effective online course videos.
Welcome to the Online Course Coach Podcast, brought to you by TrueFocusMedia.com. Whether you're a beginner or expert, this is the podcast for the latest in online course creation tips, news, interviews, and ideas. And here's your coach, Jeff Long.
Welcome back to another episode of the Online Course Coach Podcast. And if you're brand new to this podcast, we talk about everything concerning online courses. Now, sometimes this is marketing based, sometimes it is how to build your audience, how to teach more effectively. And today, we're going to be talking specifically about your course videos, your course content, and really how to teach effectively. Because I find that a lot of people are good teachers, and some people are good on video, but it's a whole different ballgame to be an effective teacher on video. So some people are scared to be on video. Some people, they get on video, maybe they ramble, they don't know what they're saying, or they don't know how to teach effectively. I want to combine those and give you these 3 simple teaching tips for effective online course videos. Now, before we get into that, I want to give a very simple video tip of the week, because I know that a lot of you struggle or get intimidated with you want to be on camera because you know it's effective, right? But it can be intimidating. You know, you don't want to mess up, or there's a lot of material to convey. And this teaching tip, this video tip of the week will really help you get started. So the video tip of the week is get on camera without feeling like you're on camera. Now, I have worked with probably hundreds of people on camera, all the way from Fortune 500 company CFOs to CEOs of large corporations, to teachers, to trainers, to normal people like you and me. And I will tell you, most people don't like being on camera, right? Do you like being on camera? I'll be honest, I don't love being on camera. And here is a way to help you get on camera without feeling like you're on camera. Now, consider these things. One way you can do that is to conduct a demonstration. So just like a cooking show isn't a lecture, they don't have slides like, hey, here is the, piece of meat that you need to ground into patties, and here are the seasonings you need to put in there, or, whatever you're making. You can tell I'm hungry for beef, apparently. It's not a boring lecture, but it's a demonstration. They show you what they're actually cooking. Maybe I should have gone with the example of a cake. That also sounds delicious. Anyway, it's not a boring lecture with PowerPoints. It's a demonstration. So if you're nervous about getting on camera, try to do a demonstration. Get out in the field. What can you do to show your students what you're trying to convey? The second way you can get on camera without feeling like you're on camera is to do an interview with another expert. Interviews take the pressure off of you, because you're just asking questions. Just like with this podcast, occasionally I bring on other experts and I get to ask really fun and pressing questions. And really the pressure is on the guest, right? They are, in a sense, responsible for bringing that awesome content. So if you're nervous about being on camera, think about bringing in other experts to interview. Number 3, do a picture-in-picture video of you and your PowerPoint slides. So if you feel intimidated by being on camera for all this time, why not put your PowerPoint slides very large, and then you can be in a small box below. And you can do that with software like ScreenFlow or Adobe Premiere. I don't know if you can do that in iMovie or not. You might be able to, but there's some different software where you can allow picture-in-picture, or you could just cut back and forth. A fourth strategy to get on camera without feeling like you're on camera is to have somebody ask you questions and have it be more conversational. So maybe you have a spouse or a friend or even your kid, if they're of a certain age, they could ask you questions off camera, and then you could just answer those questions on camera, almost like an interview. And so, just make sure that is interesting and engaging. Don't have them ask a question and then 45 minutes later of rambling, you have them ask another question. Make this, have it keep going without it dragging along. Number 5, the fifth way to get on camera without feeling like you're on camera is have fun with it, right? Make jokes, sing songs, have fun. And, it's okay if you mess up a little bit because it shows you that you're a real person. And number 6, you might have to use a teleprompter. But what I like to do instead of a teleprompter is to have main bullet points and tape them around the camera. Now, that means I'm not reading my bullet points. I'm just glancing at them. They're there as a crutch because, hey, I'm not perfect. I don't have a perfect memory. And so if I want to have those bullet points, to the side, below, that really helps me. Just make sure you're not reading, for minutes upon minutes, word for word. So those are some 6 helpful tips to get on camera without feeling like you're on camera. In the next few weeks, I'll be releasing Easy Video for Courses. It's an online course that teaches you step by step how to create effective course videos in half the time. Because I know how many of you struggle with, what gear and equipment should I buy, especially if I'm on a budget, or I don't even like being on camera. How do I get comfortable, doing something I don't really want to do, but know I have to do? And then I'll go over, how to create graphics, how to find content like videos and music and other graphics, and even how to create course videos with your iPhone. It's pretty cool. So I'll be teaching that, and in the next few weeks, I'll be sharing more about it. But for now, you can go to onlinecoursecoach.com/7 tips to get a free video about 7 tips to create better course videos. And then I'll also alert you when the course is available. Now, the good thing is I plan on giving some bonuses and maybe even a discount just to you guys, the podcast listeners. So if you're not subscribed to this podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your podcast downloader app or whatever that is. If you're listening to this online, you can go to onlinecoursecoach.com. And if you're on an iPhone or Android or wherever you are, you can download and subscribe to this podcast. That way you'll get, future episodes and get alerted when Easy Video for Courses is announced. All right, so let's get into the content of 3 simple teaching tips for effective online course videos. Now, this is something that's very simple, but it was presented to me by my friend Giovanna Ellison, or Lady J. She's in my mastermind, and she did a really good teaching the other day it was about live events, but this was something that really stuck out to me. And these 3 simple teaching tips really go hand in hand. So whatever type of teaching you're doing, I really want you to focus on these 3 things. So the first one is no. Now, this is, and this is spelled KNOW, right? This is typical, and this is where most course creators start and end. So it's the easiest to do because it's where you convey your knowledge. You help your students know something, right? You're teaching them. That's the whole point of your course, is to help them know something. So it's one of the most important, because if your students don't walk away knowing something, I'd say your course is not valuable at all. But it's not the only thing your course should contain. So a lot of my students, when I'm coaching them, when I'm auditing their courses, we talk about, hey, what are you trying to convey to your students and how are you teaching them? So there's many ways to help your students know something. And that's obviously what your course content is about. So it might be all video content, but you might have other PDFs. You might have quizzes. You might have Facebook groups or weekly webinars. I mean, there's so many ways where you as the industry leader, you as the knowledge expert, can convey the material to your students. And we've talked about that in tons of other episodes on how to teach and different things. Now, one thing I meant to talk about at the top of the show is if you go to onlinecoursecoach.com and you go to the podcast tab up in the top, there's a search bar on the right-hand side in the sidebar. Now, if you're on your phone, you probably have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. But if you're on a computer, a laptop, whatever, go to that search bar and type in, marketing or whatever that might be, video, and you'll see a list of podcasts, of videos I've created, and other content based on that topic. All right, so I think you get the idea of the first one, which is you want your students to know something. Now, the second simple teaching tip for effective online course videos is something that's usually overlooked, but it's very important. So the student might not truly learn if they don't feel anything. So you want your students to feel something. Now, this might be hard for some personality types to think about the emotional aspect of the course content and what this student should be feeling, right? I've talked to different people who are very accomplished teachers or course creators. And when I talk about feelings and the emotion, they kind of stare at me blankly, right? I talk with some very accomplished teachers and course creators. And when we talk about feelings and emotion and what the student should be feeling, they kind of look at me with a blank stare, because some personality types, they're all about no, no, no. What should the student know? And that's fantastic. That's the foundation of your course. But also, what should they feel? Think about what the content will make your students feel. What should they be feeling? What will each lesson, how will that impact their life? And how will it motivate them to continue the course? Because I think if your course is just about knowing things, I don't know that it's going to have that life transformation. Tony Robbins says, change your story and then change your life. And emotion is a big part of that. So if you want somebody to help change their life, you need to help them to change the story first. And a lot of that is what you're conveying, what you're teaching them, what they're going to know. But the other side of that is what they're going to feel. So what can you do to help change your students' story so they know and feel it? So your course content should contain what you're teaching them, what they should know, and what they should feel. And then lastly, what should they do with that content? And this is one of the most important pieces of your teaching because it helps the student transform what you know so they know it and what they can feel with that knowledge. But most importantly, you want them to change their lives with this information. You want them to do something with the course content. So what do you want them to do? And you really need to hammer this home because I think one of the weaknesses or one of the hard things with online courses is so many people think, oh, if I just take that course, I'm going to just know the knowledge. And so they take it and they might learn some and they might feel a little bit, but they don't go out and they don't do it. They don't practice it. They don't put it into their daily lives. So what can you build into your course that will help your students do it? Maybe it's an activity. Maybe it's a quiz. Maybe it's reflection. Maybe it's having them go practice what you're teaching. But you really need to focus on that because if you're only doing the knowing part, the teaching part of your course, you're not doing that feeling part or the do part, your course isn't complete. So those are the 3 simple teaching tips for effective online course videos. Number 1, know. You want your students to know something. Number 2, you want them to feel something, and you want them to do something. Now, I told you these were 3 simple teaching tips, but a lot of time, so many courses I see don't have these 3 aspects. And so to me, they're not as complete as they could be. Now, let's get into the practical. Like, how do we do this in a course video? So if you have, multiple lessons or modules or videos, how do you, what's a simple way to teach? So this is what I teach myself, and this is what I have my students do when I'm coaching them. There's 5 steps to this, and they're pretty simple. So the first thing is when you're doing a lesson, prepare the student. So this might be 30 seconds or a minute. It's pretty short, but you want to say, hey, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about X, Y, or Z. And just kind of let them know what they're going to be learning in this specific lesson. Like I said, this doesn't need to be long. This doesn't need to be drawn out. Just make it very short and sweet. The second thing is teach the content. So this is where that know and feel part that we just talked about before come into play. So teach the content, show them what you're talking about, demonstrate, do a demonstration, not just a lecture. And when you're done, review the content. So you might say, hey, we just talked about the 3 simple teaching tips for effective online course videos. And you just kind of review the content that you just laid out. Hey, we just talked about how you want your students to know the content, feel the content, and do the content. That's kind of my summary there of reviewing what I just talked about. And then the 4th thing is you want them to consider, or you want them to reflect. Some people do a reflection point in their course videos where you maybe you paint the picture. Maybe you say, hey, imagine if you had already mastered this content. How would that make you feel? What would you do differently in your life? How would your relationships improve? Or how would you build X, Y, or Z? Get them to really paint that picture in their mind and have them think about what you just talked about. I think a lot of times in courses, we're so fast to just present the topic and we assume that the student has consumed it and that they're up to speed and they're good to go. But a lot of times learning takes place when somebody writes something out, or they put an action item on their to-do list, or they send an email, or build some code, or whatever that is that you're teaching. We want them to consider what their life will be like, now that they have this information. And the last thing is we want them to do it. We want them to practice it. We want them to, build the cake, or build the website, or buy that piece of real estate, or whatever your course is. We want them to do it, or practice it, or put it into place. So that 5-step part that every course should have is prepare, teach, review, consider, and do. I tried to think of a creative acrostic, but it wasn't coming together. So that's what we'll go with for now. Now, I know I gave a lot of content in this podcast. We talked about the video tip of the week, how to get on camera without feeling like you're on camera. We talked about 3 simple teaching tips for effective online course videos, know, feel, and do. And then we talked about how to practically do this. In a lesson, in a video for your course, we talked about how to prepare the student, what you're going to be talking about. Then you teach it, you review it, you have them consider the content, and you have them practice or do the material. So those strategies will help you to create more effective online course videos. Not just boring videos, not just boring PowerPoint videos. We've all seen those, but I know that you have a hunger to create effective online course videos. And so don't forget, in the coming weeks, I'll be releasing Easy Video for Courses, the course that teaches you how to create effective course videos in half the time. So if you want more information and you haven't signed up for the free video, I know tons of you have, but go to onlinecoursecoach.com/7 tips. That's the number 7 and then tips, no spaces, dashes, or anything like that. 7 tips. And get that free video on how to create, and get the free video of 7 tips to create better online course videos. And then you'll automatically be signed up to get alerts when the course is available. Hey, last thing before we go, if you haven't left a review for the podcast, I would be honored if you would leave a short review. One way is to do it in iTunes. That's the biggest podcast store there is. So go to onlinecoursecoach.com/review, and it will take you to iTunes where you can leave a review. Now, you do have to leave a review in iTunes, in the app. So leave that review and don't forget the stars, so whether that's 5 stars, whatever you think it is, you can leave your review there. Or if you're listening to this on an Android device or an other player, I would still be honored if you left a review in that specific app. But it seems like iTunes right now is the biggest player. So I would appreciate an iTunes review, especially if you're on that platform. That way other people can find this show and learn more of these tips as I create them for these podcasts. All right, well, thanks for listening to the Online Course Coach podcast. Again, every episode talks about things from marketing to course creation and video creation as well for your courses. So keep coming back to the show, where it is my goal to help you to teach many, to impact millions.